Alrighty, so we're sitting down to plug another movie into the one-shot review system. Today, the movie that we finally saw was The Equalizer 3 with Denzel Washington and Dakota Fanning. So the reason why I say we finally saw this movie is because there's kind of been a thing where ever since this movie came out, I've been meaning to see it, and because of my Stubbs A-list thing I have, it's very easy for me to go see a movie. And because it had Denzel Washington, obviously I want to go see this. But the problem was I hadn't seen Equalizer 1 and 2, and I wasn't sure if that was going to matter very much, but I just decided that it would probably be worth it to watch them beforehand, especially with other people kind of telling me that the Equalizer, just anecdotally, was a pretty good movie. So it's actually name dropped in a JME song, but that's another thing for another day. But so today we went and saw The Equalizer 3. I saw it with my girlfriend Mary Elizabeth, and so I got to see kind of her aspect on it too as well, just being somebody that hadn't seen any of the other movies. So that was kind of front of mind while watching it, just kind of like what kind of stuff should I have explained to her very quickly if there's something random that comes up. And there were a couple of things in the movie that it was good that I had seen the other two movies before, so I'm glad I did. But anyway, today we went to the theater. We got our tickets on the app, no problem. It's actually really convenient. It already knows if you want to use one of them for your reservations that you have for the week, because you get 3 movies a week. And then if you buy another seat, it just adds that on as an additional ticket. But you don't have to buy one ticket, get out of the app, get back in the app, buy another ticket. Hopefully that seat next to you is still there. You totally have the ability to just pick both seats and it works it out, no problem. So I think that was pretty cool. It's kind of funny to think that I don't expect technology to work correctly anymore. I think that's kind of sad, but that's just the way things are, I guess. But we go in and we see the movie, we walk in, scan the tickets, no problem. Today we got no popcorn. I realized my mistake last time when my stomach hurt again. It's gotta learn from that feedback not to eat as much popcorn from the movie theater. But we did get instead of this time 7 icy, ended up getting a soft drink and some candy. So I had some Sour Patch Kids and some M&Ms that I shared. And then we had a vanilla Coke Zero. And I gotta say, once again, the Coke Zero machines, they're just not good. I mean, they really do not actually give you the real thing. I don't know what the problem is, what needs to be changed to make that the case, but from here on out, the only thing I'm getting out of a Coke Freestyle machine is the stock version of the soda anyway. And if I still have this complaint, then, I might just have to start a feedback war on the Coca-Cola Freestyle machines, figure out, who is the right person to take that piece of feedback, send them a letter, whatever it needs to be. But I just really think that, it does not come out the same whatsoever compared to, say, if I had gone to the store and bought a vanilla Coke Zero or something, which has existed in the past. I know what it tastes like. It's not what it tastes like out of this machine. The other thing about it too, though, is at the movie theaters, you get this giant cup and you fill it with some ice and you fill it all the way up. But unless you are literally going to drink the whole thing before the movie even really starts, or before you're even 30 minutes into the movie, then literally the ice will already begin to melt, and whatever you've got left in that cup is going to be a watery version of what you initially got. And I know that in the past, maybe the way to solve this problem was styrofoam cups. But we're not allowed to do styrofoam anymore because we don't want to ruin the planet. So whatever that safe alternative to styrofoam is, that's going to give me a disposable, insulated cup. Let's figure it out. This is not working with these other cups. But enough about that stuff. When we think about, what trailers do we have with this movie, it was all stuff I had seen before. Now I'm starting to see a lot more Napoleon trailers, and I really think that Napoleon with Joaquin Phoenix is going to be pretty good. I'm not quite sure what bend like Ridley Scott has on this, like what the narrative is going to tell me outside of historical events and stuff like that. But the trailer definitely makes it seem interesting, especially the part where his wife is like, "You're nothing without me." I am interested to see how that comes into play throughout the movie. But yeah, Napoleon looks good. The creator looks good. I was actually just talking with my dad about that on the phone because he saw the trailer too and was asking me about it. Obviously, the new Scorsese movie looks good. You know, all the trailers look pretty good. I think I'll see all those movies. The Bob Marley trailer was back again. I think that movie looks good as well. I'm interested to see, like, maybe we had all these movies in the tank, right? What's going to happen when the writer's strike and the actor's strike kind of takes effect in the theaters? Like, is this going to be the second death where all of a sudden we have to worry about the theaters dying again because there's nothing coming out? Or is there going to be enough, I guess, non-union stuff to keep them afloat? Or, like, what are they going to do? I kind of hope that their answer to this is to re-show some older movies. But, I mean, I don't know. So we'll see what happens when we get there. But with the Equalizer 3, just to finally, get into it now that I've kind of pulled you along for 5 minutes here. This movie, again, is another movie that builds upon the formula of the first two, except this time, Robert McCall is in Italy. And we do not find out why he's in Italy until the end of the movie, but it's essentially not really relevant to what goes down. But in this movie, you kind of open up to this mob boss, which we find out is not the boss, but this mob guy. He shows up, he goes through this safe house where this vineyard where they're supposed to have all these different, wine caskets and stuff like that, but it's actually a front for, a safe with a money room and a bunch of drugs that they bought from the Syrians to sell in the mainland and make a bunch of money. And for that, they also give a bunch of money to the Syrians. And that, you don't know this at the beginning of the movie, but that's basically the setup as to, like, what is the larger looming bad thing that these guys are doing. But then you come in the first scene, Denzel Washington's just, like, sitting in a chair. And the guy walks in after seeing, like, all the other dudes in the building had died by his hand. And he's like, "Oh, well, I've been waiting for you. You should have been here. Like, just same Robert McCall funny stuff. So that kind of stuff is kind of fun. But this movie, there was a little bit more of, like, instead of do the right thing, it was more like, like, people will end up where they end up in the afterlife, meaning that if you're a good person, you will end up in the right place, and if you're a bad person, you'll end up in a bad place, and we'll all get our kind of just desserts. But the whole setting of this is everything is taking place in this small town in Sicily. And so now, Robert McCall's in Italy, and the whole first half of the movie just plays into not only kind of setting up this, mobster faction as the main bad guys in this film, but also showing how he is sort of finding peace in this little town in Italy where everybody cares about each other and everybody's helping everybody out, and these people are kind of helping him, get connected with the community and all that kind of stuff. It's really sweet, honestly. And part of the reason why he's stuck here, she's like, why is he in Italy other than whatever job he had to do at that vineyard, is that at the end of that job, there's a little kid in the truck on outside the house while he's kind of leaving. And he tells the kid, and this kid's like the kid of one of the mobsters. He's like, just stay in the car. He's not going to kill a kid, right? And you kind of expect this kid to just do that. But then he shoots him in the back. The kid shoots Robert McCall in the back with a shotgun. And so the reason why he's kind of stuck in Italy is he's being repaired by this doctor that lives within the little town that he likes to stay in. And that sets up, all of these movies are about him being the equalizer between people that are essentially helpless because these other people have corruption and power and all this stuff on their side and they don't. And he is obviously the equalizer, the reason why it's that name, that kind of turns the tides in favor of the people and makes things right and provides that justice. And so we're kind of setting up where, you have all these really nice people who are being really nice to him, but then now the gang faction wants to turn this town into a tourist location after they get done selling all this drugs to the public to fund their own stuff, and then also fund the same terrorists that are attacking Italy as well. And so it's like they really look like the bad guys. You know what I mean? They start putting pressure on the community, and like Denzel Washington even says in the movie, timing is everything, and he happens to be there at the right place at the right time to be the one that serves justice for them. So without kind of spoiling the rest of the movie, because I think the movie was pretty good, the reason why Dakota Fanning is in this movie is because now, Robert McCall no longer has his government insiders to help him, because in the last movie she died, and the other person who he might have gotten help from turned out to be a bad guy, right? So now we find him calling somebody from the CIA, who happens to be Dakota Fanning, giving them a tip about that same vineyard and kind of like all the drugs that are being smuggled through there, and there's probably more to this story and stuff like that. And so she gets involved because her, and I'm guessing either her boss or her partner or something like that, her coworker, only reason I say boss because he was kind of giving out direction a little bit, but which was also like the dude from CSI. And I think this is one thing where I could say, I think both me and Mary Elizabeth agreed he probably is more of a TV actor than a movie actor, because there are certain points where he almost seems like a bad guy just because of his mannerisms and stuff like that, but he's totally not. Anyway, I'm saying a lot of ums in this episode, I guess. But she is cracking the case on behalf of the CIA, because the CIA has interest in all sorts of terrorist stuff, and they're going to help out the Italians to figure this out because they don't want money going to terrorists no matter what. And so he's kind of using her as his new government asset to help him out, but he's also helping her, sort of like a win-win. And to not spoil the rest of the movie, basically if you've seen another Equalizer film, you pretty much know what's going to happen. But then there are some interesting twists at the end that I don't want to reveal, but there's a reason why he reaches out to this specific CIA operative, and it's kind of a nice loop at the end, to put it without spoiling it. But that being said, that's pretty much all I can say about the movie without spoiling anything else about it. So if I'm going to talk about, what I think about it without talking about the plot anymore, I think that this movie was still really good, even though it had a lot less action than the first two. And I know that there are some people out there that believe that this movie was kind of a stinker, at least in their eyes, because they really wanted to see those action scenes the whole movie, just like the first two. But I mean, the guy literally got shot in the back, and what we're watching is him rehabilitate himself to be able to then take on the threat. And in a weird way, these movies kind of mirror the Dark Knight trilogy in a way. But I don't really want to dig into that rabbit hole any deeper. But I just noticed that was interesting. But the movie has less action, but it makes sense because what's happening to our character is that he has been this vigilante for a while, and now he's finally found a place in the world where he can find peace. And he wants to maintain that peace and provide that justice for them so that he can, almost selfishly have the happy ending that he wants in this town. And so following all of that, I think that it's not a bad thing that the movie had less action. I think it was actually pretty good, and it helps us sort of do a nice send-off to the character. And then as far as, the action scenes that were present, were they interesting? Definitely. And there's an ending scene where he essentially takes siege on the headquarters of this mob gang, and I mean, when we're talking about Batman style taking people down, this sequence of scenes is that to a key. Even to the point where, like, when one of the bad guys wakes up from his stupor, the way that the main villain, like the head honcho, is dealt with is absolutely poetic in a way. And then immediately after, things kind of handle themselves in a way to make sure that the town is safe for good. So I think that the movie, if we're going to talk about it, I think that the first Equalizer film is obviously the best out of the three. They had an extra cool take on the way they were doing the cinematography. The action was pretty heavy throughout the whole movie, and all of it was very well choreographed. I think the second movie kind of turned it up a notch as far as, the action scenes and the choreography, and trying but sort of failing at having this conspiratorial aspect to it. And this movie was still very good. I don't think it's any worse than the second movie, but it didn't have that same quality of care that we got in the first movie as far as making the entire thing a great film versus just having aspects of it. I think the writing was actually pretty good in this, but there were some places where you don't really know what exactly happened, or we're assuming a lot of information, and it just wasn't super tight, right? So with all that being said, I think it was a really good movie, and if I'm plugging it into should you see it at the theaters, should you see it at home, whatever, I think that if you like watching movies that have Denzel Washington as a lead, if you like action movies, if you've seen the other two Equalizers, then it's absolutely worth it to go see this in theaters. But if you would be going and watching this movie on a whim, just wait for it at home. Watch the other two films in the meantime, somehow. And then once this is out on streaming, on DVD, on buying it on streaming or whatever, then watch it there. And that would really be the best way to kind of do it. As far as what do I rate this in the actual sort of out of 5, I think that just like the second movie, it's a very strong 3, but it just doesn't have any of the extra aspects that tick it up into a low 4. And it's just because I'm almost taking this, like, you could look at the way I'm rating these movies and maybe say I'm being inconsistent, but I think if I have a baseline for how this movie could turn out, being the first movie, then I can't give it any more than that, because I know that that first movie was only at that kind of 4 area, and I know that this is worse than that, right? But I don't think it's a bad movie in any respect, and I actually think that in terms of making a trilogy of movies like this, where it's sort of unnecessary, but you want to keep making money from the IP, this was a very not annoying way to make a third movie, to do some interesting character development, and kind of close up everything at the end. And so with that being said, that's the review. I'm saying it's a very strong 3. Definitely watch it in theaters if you're into something like that, but don't worry about it if you're not. And then let me know what you think about the movie if you went and saw it in the comments below. Let me know, what you're thinking about these videos. Subscribe if you want to, like the video if you want to. If you dislike the video, then you have to leave me comments of feedback below. But other than all that, that was the movie, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.